Hello! Hello. Welcome to Charmed Persons. As you can see, we got a bit of a different setup today, as we have four of the members of A Little Help to talk about the first 24 and a half sessions in Tayaroth. Hopefully, in the future, we will have talkbacks that talk about a less wide range of time. But yeah, so we've got Emily Kipp, who plays Maewyn Silverstep. We've got Evan Cullinan, who plays Morton Quincy. We've got Sophie Pantel, who plays U Pentwee / currently G Whitakers. And we've also got Matt Schwartzwalder, who plays Flint Boulderbender. Name is, I've never said his name that way. I don't know why I did that. Angie, I see you in the chat. How dare I? Because I can. So if you are also watching and have questions that you want to throw in the chat, we're looking at that. We never ever look at or respond to our chat other than in talkbacks, so take advantage of the situation. Without further ado, let's just jump in. I'm glad that you all were able to join us today, and I'm excited to talk about Tayaroth and A Little Help. To ease us into the situation, I thought I'd ask one simple question of all of you, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Matt, which was Flint Boulderbender. Where did he come from? Where was your mind at when you created Flint?
I think, well, first of all, I wanted to play a warlock because I think warlocks are fun and they're great fodder for, backstory, propulsion, and it's a fun thing for DM. And I haven't really played a warlock, I don't think, ever, so yeah. That was that. And then I was looking at the subclasses of warlock, and the genie one is Flint's patron, which is like in supplemental material. I had never seen it before, and it's really cool and amazing. And part of being a genie is you can choose like the elements of what kind of genie you are. And I chose earth, rock, because I thought it was just thematically kind of cool. And then so I kind of created it backwards, that he was like a dwarf that is into mining from that.
That's cool. I don't know if I knew that it was class first and then into Flint.
Yes, and then I like the idea of him being, I kind of settled on him being just like a dad. Like, not an incredible dad, really, but he's figuring it out. He's like divorced, and he's doing something for his son that really doesn't need to be done, but in his mind it is. So I like the going on adventure while grappling with what that means as a character.
Yeah, I think that you've really hit the nail on the head on the middle-age crisis with Flint. He definitely always is like just making ridiculous choices that people in the midlife crisis make. Well, that's great. I like that a lot. I'm interested to hear your take on playing as a warlock, but that's something that we can dive into a little bit later. Evan, Morton Quincy, where was your head at with Morton? Where did he come from?
Weirdly enough, I also started with class.
Yeah?
Yeah, because for the first time, because I had played a couple characters before the stream, I had always played magic characters, so with Elburn, I was like, I'm going to go anti-magic, because me as a person, love the concept of magic in these games.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. I was like, let me do something different. And then after doing that, I was like, let me go back to something completely different from that, and let me do rogue, which I had never done before. Usually I ended up with like some sort of wizard or sorcerer. And then Elburn at some point, Elburn was the fighter. I was like, let me go rogue, and then you had mentioned the arcane trickster. I was like, oh, okay, so what kind of person is that? And then I thought, what's the stark contrast and opposite to Elburn? It's like someone who always wants to be liked, someone who like comes from a background that is like, it's dramatic of its own accord, but is definitely much lower stakes.
Yeah.
And far less accidental genocide-y.
Yeah. You mean that Morton is not a 1,000-year-old wizard who almost ended the world? Gotcha.
Yeah. He was not that, and was not being punished for that. But like, it was like, well, I also kind of want to make him a little bit more relatable. So I was like, he just like, I was like, he comes from an insanely rich family. But he fucking hates it. He hates the fact that like he's defined by this wealth, which is why like, as often as you see it, he's like, as soon as he acquires wealth, he's like, great, bye, and then shoves it out the window. And I was like, I think that'd be very interesting to do. And I was like, well, what if he was also in his pursuit of always wanting to be liked? What if he just like wanted to fuck everything? Because it's usually reserved for a bard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So I was like, so what is? And then it like in those instances, it was like asking myself a question of like, well, why would he do that? It was like, oh, because of this, and then it like kind of pulled together this character that turned into this. I don't want to be a part of my family because they suck.
Yeah.
Because they're doing things that I don't agree with, and the money is turned into da-da-da-da, which is hilarious because I had no idea that both Eric and Emily were having a very similar background. But yeah, that's kind of where it was. It was like I started class, and then I just started asking myself a bunch of questions as to why this person would be there, and it's kind of formed Morton. And then as we've played, more stuff is like pulled into his
of course,
personality and stuff, and created Morton.
Of course. No, I love that. And I think that it has been super interesting to see the way Morton deals with wealth, because Morton has seen what wealth can do. And so it's interesting to see his relationship with it.
He hates it.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Angie in the chat said, "You all are so cute. My question is, how did you all get so cute?" Well, when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much. Thank you, Angie. You're cute. We miss you. So speaking of a very similar backstory, Emily, Maewyn Silverstep, I know you're kind of missing your better half here, but how did you come about with Maewyn?
I went back in my text with Eric because I was having a hard time remembering like who decided what. So I've gone back to February of last year.
Wow, that's crazy to think about.
Eric and I always goof when we play. Like, we communicate non-verbally and are in on the same inside jokes a lot in Zooms. So when we came into this campaign, I was like, I should play with Eric. I think we would have fun. So I know that he already had some ideas, and I already had some ideas. I think maybe he chose our race, and then we didn't want to have to be the same class, and I think being twins, we wanted to find a way to like justify not having the same class. Because with most backstories, it would make sense that like we would have one option sort of, or we would be doing
I guess that does make sense.
So I actually just realized I proposed the idea of coming from like a rich family, so we had a lot of resources, a lot of siblings, a lot of options in terms of like what we were able to learn and what skills we were able to gain. And then in terms of Maewyn specifically, I named her Maewyn because Eric had already chosen Cuinn, and I was finding a name that sounded
that rhymed.
And I have played a ranger in like one-shots before, but I'd never like really played a ranger. And my last two big campaign characters were druid and wizard, which are very heavy magic users. So I wanted to lean less on the magic, but not go without magic at all, which is funny because I just decided to multi-class, but
to a druid.
But it was fun. I mean, like I like getting up in the action, and like that's something that I don't feel like I'd been able to do a whole lot with my last couple characters. So I wanted to be able to do that. I wanted an archer. That was my big thing, is I wanted to be an archer. And I also wanted to have an animal companion that I was actually allowed to have. Zach has very nicely let me have several animal companions that
weren't like canonical with the class.
I just had a full-on lioness as a druid at one point. So I wanted to have an animal companion that was an actual animal companion and not a familiar, not magical in any way. So yeah, that's I guess how I got to May.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. What made you choose Batty as your animal companion?
I don't remember exactly, but I honestly think I was looking through my options. I wanted something that was a companion that was going to be like useful in battles and stuff, but also not super common. And I think I pretty immediately thought it would be funny to name a giant badger Batty.
Yeah. That's not surprising that Batty came from just the name of Batty.
Yeah. I was like, Batty.
I love that. Well, then, Sophie, last but not least, go ahead and talk about you. We definitely want to hear where you came from and how they appeared. But also, if you want to talk about G a little bit too.
Sure. I'll talk about you first because that's the first character. And similar to Emily, going back to how the source of this character came from, because it was made in collaboration with Angie, because Angie's character Rosie is connected, and at one point in time, reaching out to Angie, was like, "Oh, you're gonna play this sweet little like halfling woman," and they're like, "Oh, never mind. Zach or Emily and Eric are gonna play halflings, so let's pivot." But it was always from the start. They wanted to be a cleric, and I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll be a paladin. We'll be of the same faith."
Yeah.
And you can be this sweet little old woman who is like sheltered from the harsh realities by this paladin. And then it was like, "Oh, you protected me at one point in time, so now I have to I've sworn my oath to protecting you." And always was kind of in love with the Boy Scout idea. And then I was like, "Oh, what if this just turned into a Weasley house of adopted kids?"
Yeah.
And I those kids.
Yeah.
And I was, I think both Angie and I, for the most part, have played characters that were loners who stepped into a group previous to this, and I was like, "Ooh, what if I had some other reason to be here?"
I love that. Yeah.
My character's benefit.
I think it's super cool that you guys both, because like you said, it's just, usually D&D characters come from such traumatic experiences. And yeah, some traumatic stuff has happened to the Pentwees at this point, for sure. But, you came in as a pretty wholesome family unit, which was cool to see.
Yeah, wholesome family that then was further traumatized.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then it's been fun to have some attachment to that. I know that even when I've played a loner character, we've gotten into my backstory and Rev and their dad in the last campaign was a really deep part of the narrative.
Yeah.
And pretty core to the central plot with the antagonist of my storyline. And then in this one, it's my parent that I'm trying to protect and keep safe is right there next to me.
Yeah.
And, it's been
and not hiding safely, participating in the midst of everything.
Yeah. And they are capable, and they are determined, and have their own authority and agency, and also as a still very much so a child who's sworn to try and do their best and protect the entire group, but especially Rosie, is really confronted by both wanting to do the right thing and take care of this bigger picture, and also just keep their mom safe.
Yeah, and then you kind of brought back in the loner trope with G.
Yeah, this one feels a little bit closer to the historic characters that I've played in the past. Rev, and not that the viewers would know this, but Reap being an outsider who is unfamiliar with the world or even the group that they're in, thrust into this life. She at least is a little bit more willing and embracing of what they have signed up for. And yeah, somebody who's a little aw shucks and awkward and caring. I don't know what it's like to be that person at all. So G Whittaker's, especially because it was here's a short-term character, at the very least, if this is just a bridge to get back to maybe you coming back eventually.
Question mark?
Or not, but you play a campaign for a year and you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna have a little bit more fun with this one."
Yeah, for sure. Let your hair down a little.
A goofy furbolg who doesn't have to be super well optimized. Just enough to have fun and to be a willing partner to the group.
Yeah, I love that. No, I think that that's great. I love all of these the cast of characters. I'm very excited to hear about Eric and JMO and Angie's process creating their characters as well. But let's go ahead and jump into. I've kind of what is G's class? Angie says.
Yeah, we haven't actually, I think, explicitly said that.
We haven't, yeah, and you don't have to if you don't want to.
No, so G is a ranger. Is their class. I don't remember what their subclass, like their focus is off the top of my head.
Fucking nerd.
I'm trying to remember as well, and I don't know if I remember. I don't even know if, honestly, I might not even know, because I think that Sophie is kind of one of the reasons, as we've heard from my Meet the Persons, that I got into D&D. So I very much trust, I trust everybody's, but I very much trust Sophie's character creation abilities. And so I was just kind of, as far as G was concerned, I was just kind of like, let me know what G's deal is and we'll plug him in for sure.
And that's kind of how I like to write a character anyway. It's just like,
yeah,
what's a general vibe? And then I try to let a character tell me who they are and like, how do we fit this to the world that it's in? Yeah,
like Evan said, there's a lot of discovery while you play as well. Yeah. Okay, well, let's...
It has been fun to have like a background line too of the Planadium Planopticon that is this like really serious, really intense group of nerds who are trying to save the world and didn't know kind of how right they were until recently.
You know what? Okay, I was going to save this question for a little bit later, but I'll just go ahead and ask it now. You came to me with a Palladium Planopticon, and I'm just curious as to your reaction as to this, like, it was one sentence in your backstory, and what that organization has become now in the storyline, and just kind of like what your reaction and thought process was on that.
Especially when the Shade first appeared, I wasn't expecting that. And it was like, oh, maybe like someday we'll like find some more of these people, or I'll like find the writer and it'll end up have all been like bullshit or something. But like he was just writing to like these books to like make money, and it was never like a prophecy, and like the club was just like, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Like,
exactly.
Like, coded ring. And with you, it's fun because like you like it's always been really rewarding to like give you those small little threads that, like I've said before, that you like then weave a tapestry with. Because who knows which part of a backstory you will then like take off and run with. And it was great because it was also a really great wish fulfillment for you, who's like, I was fucking right.
For sure.
The secret organization, and this for what is largely a still a teenager in their head. Just like their understanding of the world, and like, here's a secret organization, and no, I do really believe in this. And then for Rosie, you're like, no, those are just stories. What are you talking about?
It's like using the red tinted glasses in the cereal box to decode the code on the back of the cereal box, and it turns out to be like a government message or something that, you know?
There is a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, perfect. Well, I love that. So I kind of have broken up these questions into like, we haven't really, we're still kind of dealing kind of with the first overarching arc, which is like who knows, maybe it'll be the arc of the entire campaign, the Animalia. But the first real arc, I would say, is if we break it down a little bit smaller, is everybody discovering each other on the caravan, and then the first entrance into Barrington, and kind of the uncovering of the gangs in the underground in Barrington. And I feel like that was kind of the first arc a little bit. And then the second arc, I kind of feel like was leaving Barrington and the city of Keenor and the underground city there, and discovering more of what you guys were capable of, because there had not been a lot of like combat and stuff. That kind of felt like the second arc to me. And then there was the arc of leaving that, and I just framed it in my head as like the Palladium arc, because then there was just like a lot of lore dropping, a lot of learning about the Palladium, a lot of learning about the prophecies, a lot of stuff finally being less cryptic. You've been dealing with this like secret, ancient, mysterious organization, and now it's kind of all being laid out as to what's going on. And then kind of the final arc of that we just finished, really, which was Sildira and finding out everything in there. So with the first arc being considered kind of the underground and everything, I guess my question for you, Morton, would be, what was the initial, and actually I'll ask this of everybody, actually, but I'll start with you, Evan. What was Morton's reason for sticking with these group of misfits? And like what drove Morton to want to know what the Hanged Men were up to, want to know what the Animalia was up to? Like, what was his driving motivation there, you think?
I think it was almost like did you all just hear that very loud car horn?
No.
I didn't know if it went through my speakers, but it was like, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. I think his initial desire to like stick with the group and then learn all about the stuff, it was just so opposite as to what his own life was.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like before he joined, he was like a part of a theater troupe for a while. And then he like went off on his own, did whatever, and he just kept kind of going to like discover all the stuff he might have been like sheltered from. And because of that, he had a lot of different experience dealing with groups like that. So it's like he was always trying to learn more about the land from when he was, isolated with his family being in their little ivory tower, as it were, of like all the stuff he wasn't allowed to like deal with because that was beneath him.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, what are you talking about? They have the most fun.
Yeah.
And so when it got a little more serious, he was like, ew. Like even the first battle, I remember, I would say probably the first battle is probably one of the only times he's actually been like actively in a fight, a deadly fight. Because I'm sure he'd been in fights before that, but like
the ambush on the caravan trail.
When they were like, we're gonna kidnap Rosie.
Yeah.
Because like he even like when he stabbed the person was like gross. I've seen I've heard of this happening, but like and then that's
what is this liquid
like,
that is pouring out of their body?
It's like not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan. But I think he was just like trying to pull in all these new experiences and learning how the world works when it's not being marionetted.
Yeah. So it's kind of the novelty of all of it.
Yeah, I think that's what the first thing because he's always looking for interesting people. That's kind of where he's at. That aren't in that sphere. Yeah. That he knew, and so then once it got more serious, he was like, both feet are in it, and then just like pulling the thread. Of course, as it were. But I think that was the initial interest, was just a new entirely different way of life that he was unused to.
That's super interesting. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense for Morton because, like you said, it's a life that it's very different than the life that he had being raised. What about Flint, Matt? What do you think? I know that we've talked about the middle-aged midlife crisis, just going out for an adventure. Was it pretty much that simple for him?
Yeah, but I think. Oh, I heard the horn. So, Flint spent his life as a miner.
Yeah.
Of course, being a miner is...
We all spent our lives as miners until we age up.
At least until 18.
Sylvie was right there with
me. No comment. Anyway.
Matt notoriously hates puns.
Yeah, how rude, basically. Just kidding. I love you guys. Anyway, so...
Flint.
I was pretty proud of myself when I figured out the name Flint. I love that name.
Angie says I have to quit Charmed Persons. Fine, bye.
You are quitting right now?
No, Angie said she has to quit Charmed Persons. I said fine, bye.
Okay.
See ya. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't leave us. Anyway, Flint's answering this question.
Yes. I am here answering this question. Oh, yes, I am answering this question. So
I'm sorry.
He was worked in a mine, and of course, working in a mine is a difficult thing that requires, it's not, a normal job really in a lot of ways, but it's not like he was heroically down in the mine shafts fighting Balrogs or anything like that. He was just kind of an everyday worker, just, doing his job. And I think his entire family, everyone has been miners. And that, of course, this midlife crisis kind of came about with his son getting older and recently divorced, of course, and he's wondering why is this all he can do is be a miner down there and leave his family for weeks and months at a time way down below the earth. So that spawned his want to go out adventuring. And then of course, once the adventuring became, oh wow, this is like actually adventuring, we're like killing people. We're like straight up killing people. I think he had a choice pretty early on of like, ooh, I shouldn't be doing this. This is not who I am. I'm just a miner. But especially with like the revelation of the primordial wizard thing, and the fact that this group is so supportive and accommodating for the most part.
For the most part.
For the most part. He's sticking it out, but I think a piece of him will always be in Gorahold with his son instead. Yeah,
well, and I'm very excited to see Gorahold, because that definitely is in our future. Who knows when it'll happen, but I know that it will happen, and that'll be fun to explore. Sophie, I mean, I feel like Yu's motivation was pretty clear pretty immediately, but is there anything you want to elaborate on?
I will say too, that first battle was, I think, formative for all of us. One, it's getting to know each other, but also getting to know ourselves and the reactions that we are going to have to violence, and especially fighting what was not goblins or like giant spiders, but to fight people who are sentient and have ill intent. And from jump, just having that need to protect my mom, and pushed to a limit where Rosie's attacked and they're trying to kidnap her, and that first step of kind of like breaking and swinging with that full force of my hammer. And
did you get a nat 20 in that fight?
Yeah, I think getting a nat 20 and like smashing somebody's head like off their body in like that first strike of just like, oh, and this moment of like not knowing my own strength, and like
exactly,
like this is the first time that I'm in combat, and now I have like obliterated a person, and looking at the other two who I was confronting, and just saying like, leave, like don't make me do this, and it's just that was from jump of like having to kind of reaffirm that was always what my character's intent was to kind of protect and like guard Rosie from that violence and from that harm, but then having to absorb that and expose myself to that and not being ready.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, I mean, it's like every kid's dream is to be able to like jump into that action movie or like jump into that book, and then you never think about like what happens if you do, and you actually are in this situation. It's not as, the rose-tinted glasses are gone, and the reality of the situation hits, and I think that first battle really did that for everybody. Well, and Emily, the reason why I saved you for last is because both Cuinn and Maewyn have had probably the most conversations about not continuing with this group, and most of those thought processes have come from Cuinn. But what do you think drove Maewyn specifically to want to stay with this group?
I think one interesting thing I found scrolling back through my text with Eric is we said early on that like, because our parents were thieves or bad people, I think we started out with them just being like straight up thieves. Our like heroic deeds were our act of rebellion.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how we looked at that. And I think that, Cuinn has the whole Alexander Nightshade thing. He's got a purpose of some sort to be out in the world without our family. And I don't know that May had that so much.
Yeah.
I think before the campaign, I think in my backstory I said May like builds little houses for the mice in the woods to make sure that they're safe, and like little, like she just was like so out of her element to be here and to be doing that. And I think she and Cuinn just had in their mind like, let's go have adventures. And joining with this group made a lot of sense to just like go and have an adventure. And in it, she found a bit of family that I don't think she ever had. I mean, she and Cuinn had a close group of friends at home, which we've started to dive into a little bit. But Cuinn was a little bit closer to them than May was, even then. And so having this sense of family, of a team that's sticking by you, I think, as much as she loves Cuinn and has Cuinn, that's a hard thing to walk away from.
For sure. Well, and I think everybody can kind of relate to that who plays D&D, of that aspect of chosen family and how powerful that can be, and how much of a motivation that can be. Similar question to you that I asked Sophie with the Palladium Planopticon. Your parents and how, you know, they were thieves, and now all of a sudden they're members of this ancient organization and, like, you know, almost cultish. Like, what was your thought process when you discovered all that?
It's interesting because when Eric and I first sort of dug into that backstory, we were like, this is too big. We're making them too big. Zach's not going to let them be this big, you know? So we kind of dialed it back a little bit, but I think it's been interesting to like see how that impacts things, because obviously we knew that was going to come back when we built that into our backstory. How could we not? Obviously, when we give you 9 siblings, you're going to kill some of them.
Maybe 3 of them in one shot.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting to see how like integral they are, because as far as May and Cuinn knew, like from a character perspective, like we knew that our parents had these nicknames and we knew they were into some not good shit.
Yeah.
But I don't think in a million years we ever would have guessed that it had something to do with banished gods.
Yeah.
So it's like we, in running away, maybe didn't have all the information that we needed. And definitely we're prepared to leave our parents and kind of rebel against our parents, but we're not prepared to be in a war against our parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been interesting to figure out how May and Cuinn, both together and separately, deal with knowing that their parents are bad people, knowing that they left for a reason, but also like, you don't want to kill your parents.
Yeah.
Even if they're really crappy people, like you don't want to be put in that position. So,
and I still think that there is the question of even the parents, like, because you've been questioning the siblings, you know, like how involved are the siblings and everything that's going on, but even the parents you still haven't had that complete clarification of how deep are they really. I feel like that's been an interesting thing to discover. And then all of you kind of had motivation to stay with this group and join with this group when Quiz kind of laid out who everyone was, and kind of gave you all these, like, the symbology of the Vishar and the Chosen, the Seer, the Avanished, and the Primordial Mage. And so, similar question to you, Matt, about a part of, like, a small part of your backstory. What's it been seeing, like, the Tao, because it's the Tao, right? That's the subclass. That's the Earth Genie, is the Tao. In kind of turning into this, like, ancient primordial mage thing. Did you expect that?
No. Well, I mean,
you knew something was going to come from it, for sure. Yeah.
I think when, Flint first grew extra arms and was flying, he was like, this is incredible. Like, how did this happen? I'm the coolest person alive.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure maybe in the next few sessions, he'll have a little bit more of a, oh God, there's really no turning back now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in this.
I used to just mime. Like, that's all I did.
Yeah. I think he's might grapple with this, the severity and finalness of this.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, like, being a primordial mage in this regard seems to be I mean, it's kind of exactly what he wanted, to be a hero, and like you can dictate or follow this path to like have a tangible change on the world. But
Yeah.
that's a big thing for anyone, and I think that's something that he needs to grapple with, even though it's technically what he wanted. But it's one of those things, if you get what you want, you realize, oh, maybe did I want that?
Yeah. No, it's very similar to you in that way of like, yeah, I believe this. This is all true. Oh, I wish this wasn't true. I don't, and now you all
Morton
are
certainly wants to have a conversation after talking with, what was the name of the captain of the ship that we're currently on?
Yes, I forget her first name. It's Sandwalker. Xena.
Yep.
Xena Sandwalker.
Xena, yeah. The fact that Xena's like, oh yeah, no, I just lost so many people important to me because of this thing that looks exactly like what both Edmund and you and Flint has. Although Morton doesn't know about Edmund's thing yet.
Yeah.
But it's just like, just like, oh, what did you say about a very similar looking thing that killed so many people that you care about? Ah, man, I gotta talk to Flint now about this and see what's up.
Yeah.
Well, you're like, hey, man, feeling any murderous tendencies? I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, Morton has kind of taken on the role of the group's what's the word I'm looking for? Not cynic. Group skeptic, maybe. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it's like it's very the group paranoid person for sure. And I think that, now that we've talked a little bit more about like how you started with Morton, I think it makes a lot of sense. Everything's very new to him, and so he's used to people who act in a certain way. And it's very interesting to him when people act outside of what would be normally expected, which is people not murdering one another and people running away from problems. And
it's also nice that you've gone with it in certain like I definitely went down that path further because of like the entire first encounter with Mask and the fact that none of us remembered it.
Yeah.
Except for Angie. I was like,
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. And so I'm going to lean into like, no, there's no way. Why would that be a thing? Yeah. That's not a thing. That's silly.
No, I love that. I think that's cool. And so, yeah, when you all kind of, I think the first time that, because, up until in the first arc, you're dealing with mainly humanoids, you're dealing with gangs. Yes, there is like this secret cult that's going on, which is something that's like super interesting to figure out. But then you go underground, and it's like the first real like magical area that you kind of go to as characters. So that was super interesting to see, and you ended up like, it's weird because you guys became like the heroes of this underground city, in a city full of people like not only are like indebted to you but also praised your actions, and then you come back up to the surface level and it's like none of that really ever happened, which is weird. You're used to adventuring parties kind of getting a name for themselves, and then it's like, okay, now we're getting established. Now it's like people know where we're going. We can in the audience of kings, and A Little Help hasn't really gotten there yet. And they had like a taste of it, and then that taste was kind of taken away. I don't really know. I should have prepared more questions about specific things, so I'll go ahead and go into my kind of like general questions, which is just like, what are some moments, before we get into like moments that you've enjoyed and moments that have stuck out to you, are there like subplots or moments that have happened so far that you wish we could have like dove into more, or are hoping that we dive into more and hoping that we kind of like discover more of? And really, this is open to everybody. Sophie, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I have a sibling in the Animalia.
Yeah.
It's definitely hits, home.
Yeah.
When I've lost siblings, and I know that Maewyn has experienced this as well, of like having somebody who's quote unquote bad.
Yeah.
In opposition to us and life, that is also our family, that you were just saying, that you don't want to kill your parents.
Yeah.
And I have no inkling to like immediately like, oh, go and kill my sibling.
Yeah.
But I want to like investigate that more and see what got them there and why. And like, you want to hope that there's like some corruptive force and that there's a path to redemption from that space. And we've been there before with my dad in the last campaign, being turned into a vampire.
Yeah.
And having to like confront that, where he's now killed people and is confronting us, and there's the risk of him killing more people. And it's a choice of like, can we find a cure? And in that case, like there was one, and it also ended up with us having to kill my dad.
Yeah.
It's
you did.
He got better.
He got better. No, it's almost like a very morbid trolley problem, which is like, you know, on the track that you're heading on right now is you know, a family member, someone close to you, and it's either you take care of them, you handle that situation, or you flip the track over and you just let whatever chaos they're going to create happen, which could be any number of things. So yeah, that's super interesting. I'm also looking forward to getting to know Darius a little bit more and see what he's up to. Emily, I know that you raised your hand as well. Yeah.
I've got, I guess, two different things. One is diving into, I mean, we still haven't been in the same room with our parents.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in doing that, and also diving into May's relationship with her other siblings. We had established that she was closest with one sibling outside of Cuinn, and that sibling is gone now. So what does that mean for her relationship with her other siblings? I also think Cuinn and May haven't really had time to slow down and talk about it, but like after our halftime show, we discovered, I mean, the Alexander Nightshade thing would be so much easier than whatever the hell we're doing.
For real, yeah. I mean, as far as if the goal is earning gold, like most likely that is the easier route, yeah.
And if we had come across that before we discovered that we were like chosen by gods and all this other stuff, we probably would have been like, bye guys, like this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
But now we're sort of in this situation where we're stuck between like what the more fun, easier route would be and what the route that it seems like we're supposed to go down is.
Yeah.
Just like how May and Cuinn, May in particular, deals with that level of responsibility when it's not necessary within their lives right now.
Yeah. What about you, Evan? Is there something that you're, or Sophie, you actually, I'll get back to you, Sophie. Evan, do you have something that's like, something that you're looking forward to diving into? I mean, I know we got some stuff from your backstory that we've very slightly salted onto the campaign so far that we will dive into more, but
by way of shit-inducing truth potion.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the lack of information on that aspect has been honestly great because it's scaring the shit out of Morton, though no one has talked about it. It's like, wait, their parents are looking for them. What are mine doing? And all of that. And so that's very fun. And the teacher he stole the book from. Very curious about him because he respected him more. I'm curious just about like, this this Cold War that is happening between all the little city states
that all of a sudden got a lot hotter.
Yeah, it was just like, here, by the way, it's like, what happened? This happened, and also, are we responsible? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, and I don't know if the characters have kind of put two and two together yet that they're currently heading to an area where they're probably going to be seeing a lot more of this.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing on their mind. Well, mostly because Morton died, and he's still preoccupied with that. Rightly so.
Okay, I have to do, for Eric, I have to do this.
You're never gonna hear the end of this.
Jesus, it was only 6 hours ago. Relax. I'm also curious about this was a book that we found in the first time we almost died, where we first discovered the lamp for Flint. We're in the same world as previous campaigns, and we as characters, rightly so, we're like, oh, there's other worlds out there. That's very interesting. But us as players are like, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. They're
Well,
all in the same planet, continent thing? We don't know.
well, and to kind of let the viewers in on a little bit of something regarding that, we've actually had in the last, not the last session, but the session right before that, we've had our first crossover between previous campaigns and this world, which was I forget what I named him. What was his name? The guy, the tarot card guy. Spoilers. Yeah, spoilers. His name in the old campaign that was not streamed was Mollymock, because I had modeled him off of Talison's Mollymock from Critical Role. But in this session, I named him Mal something. It ended something else.
Let's see if I wrote it down. Mollyander.
Mollyander. Yeah, that's right. So Mollyander was actually an NPC in a campaign that we didn't stream. That I actually don't even know if Evan wasn't even a part of that one. And
just one time as a giant.
Yeah, exactly. Some himbo giant. Sophie, were you even in that campaign when Mollymock was a
Not
thing?
the first time.
Yeah.
The first time Mollymock showed up. But...
Yeah. So we've actually already had a crossover, so that's very, so that'll be fun to jump into. Yeah, go ahead.
We have a question. Angie asked a question.
No, I know. Yes, I'm saving that for after. I did see it. Angie, I saw your question. Thank you, Evan. I appreciate it. I will save that for after this question. Sophie, yes.
So, going back to the concept of your, as a player, wanting to be a continuous part of a campaign.
Yeah.
And your characters' motivations of to look at Maewyn and Quinn's desires of hey, do we want to just go? And I think, Zach, you've given us a nice out, because you've said in the past that if you kind of refuse this calling by the gods, it's not like you are the only chosen one, that this can transfer to somebody else. And definitely turn down a calling, but that's you're not the only option. And there is, I think, a point in time where the end of a campaign for a character doesn't have to be when they die or when you run out of story to tell or you reach level 20, but when you've achieved actualization in some way that is meaningful to you.
For sure.
Or because I know that in past games with other people that I've played, a person who was a wizard got offered a job at working at a library that had access to all of these magical texts and resources, and they're like, you know what, gang, this is it. This is as good as it gets for me. And I don't keep pursuing towards this other end goals. I found it. It's here, and I'm going to retire this character and let them be where they want to be. And I'll write another one for next week, but this is where this character ends.
I love that. Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's 100% a door that is open, and I'm willing for people to step into, because that's real life. I mean, that's real life. Just because you joined the basketball team doesn't mean you're always going to see it through all 4 years, So I think that's something that would be very interesting to kind of tackle and see how that goes. Matt, just to bring you into the question, you can say no, but is there anything that you're looking forward to diving into more?
Yes, lots of things. I mean, of course, Gora Hold. That will be fun. It's fun to be the only character from a place that we'd have no intention of going to. So,
as of right now,
mythologizing about this place. Also,
apparently now the unofficial ambassador of this place.
I also specifically interacting more with his son, Shale.
Yeah.
Look, he has never once tried to reach out to his son in 24 and a half sessions, which is not a fault of me, Matt. That's a fault of Flint.
That's just Flint.
That's just Flint.
He did promise it in the 24th and a half session, though.
Yes. So I think, that's probably coming. And, a fun thing for me is that I gave you, Zach, some background about Shale and I and our relationship a little bit, but not really that detailed.
Yeah.
So I really don't know the full extent.
Well, I can tell you he's dead for sure, dude. He's so dead.
The risk you take when you have a son.
No.
You take with having a son.
No, I'm very interested too. No, because I think that. Well, and also, not to get super deep here, but father-son relationships are a big deal to me. And so I think that it's going to be I think it'll be a very fun relationship to dive into. And even though it took him 24 and a half sessions to say that he would even talk to him, I do think I'm looking forward to Flint reaching out to his son more, for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think in Flint's mind, I don't know if this is even true or what you're thinking, Zach, but I'm sure this will come out. But in Flint's mind, after his divorce, his son sided with his ex-wife basically and kind of lived with her.
That's the vibe I got, yeah.
And, part of this midlife crisis is like proving to his son that, hey, I'm like cool and capable.
Yeah.
I know I was kind of a deadbeat and I was like living underground for months at a time, but I can like do stuff. So
yeah,
it's superficial in a lot of ways and, not the right approach to being a father is, to like leave basically
and do a bunch of stuff that your son can't see you doing.
yeah. So, and I think that's part of the journey that Flint is currently on too.
Cool. I love that. Well,
I have
Angie,
one thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sophie,
Please.
made me think I think one thing I'm also looking forward to diving into is May's multi-classing, which to me is sort of grappling with this idea of being chosen. Like Cuinn has this purpose of like music and stuff, and I think May doesn't have that so much. So this idea of being chosen is really important to her, more so than maybe it is to Cuinn, and what, being a druid and, coming into that like really means to her.
Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I also think that, you as a player, this being the first time that you've ever multi-classed is probably something that you're very much looking forward to as well, which is... yeah, I mean, multi-classing is fun. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool to have aspects of different characters. And I honestly haven't done it much either. I honestly think that Ryvar from Candlekeep is the first time that I've ever multi-classed. And I haven't played a ton of characters anyway, but... So it's exciting for sure.
I gotta tell you, me having waited this long to put any points into a second class is taking so much constraint.
I know. Sophie's always like, I am a level 1 in this, a level 2 in this, and a level 3 in this. So yeah, I'm sure it's coming for you, and I'm excited for that. But Angie had a great question, and I want to go ahead and ask it, which was, what other player character would you want to play if you weren't your character? So while you're thinking about this, I will say, if I had a choice, I would play... I think it's a toss-up between Cuinn and you. You, because I love myself a good old-fashioned Justice Paladin. There's just that's just a really fun thing to do. And I think Cuinn, if I leaned more towards Cuinn, it would be because I actually don't often play characters that are not that Cuinn is selfish, but Quinn's selfish. Cuinn is not selfish Quinn's selfish when it comes to him and May. But a character that's like definitely him first, that would be something that would be interesting to play for myself. So now that I've answered that question, Emily, who would you play if you were couldn't be Maewyn?
I think it might be Chad. I really liked Chad in the beginning. I think it's a fun juxtaposition of like the big burly like manly man dude who's also like doesn't fit that stereotype necessarily at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more recent stuff with Chad's storyline and finding a twin and being the heir, I think that's all just so interesting to grapple with. So I think that would be fun.
Cool. Yeah. Matt, what about you?
Cuinn, I think.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a bard.
I was about to say,
campaign,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Eric could beat me to the punch. So, Quinn's a fun character. Probably.
Listen, we can have 2 bards in a campaign. You know, if you want to just make sure that Flint goes home and sees his son, and that's the end of Flint, that's something we could talk about.
Look, I mean, Flint has the charisma minimum to
for sure
to bard, so we'll see. Maybe Flint.
Well, Flint's guitarist brother Rock shows up halfway through.
Amazing. What about you, Evan?
It would probably be Flint. Because I've never done a warlock before, and a character who is just so utterly obsessed with a world that is not like the rest of the world, the underground and all that stuff, is not something that I think I've ever played. Or Rosie, for the same reason of like cleric, but also Rosie's journey of devout, religious, sober, 200-plus-year-old gnome that has had nothing go wrong, really. Mm-hmm. Like their stuff has gone wrong, but like,
for sure, yeah,
things that are like, oh well, you know, nothing a little time can't heal because 200 years, and just that's been fun and sad to watch.
Yeah, the breakdown of Rosie.
Yeah, just going into the, hey, I'll promise you a bottle of wine, and she's like, yes, as opposed to immediately like getting rid of the alcohol content in all of our drinks at the start of this campaign. Yeah,
that's so true. I forgot she would do that. She would just cure the wine so that there was no alcohol in it.
Yeah, and then we'd be like, what the fuck? And now she's like, I'm going to get blackout drunk because life has become horrible for me. So like, I don't know. I think more, and I've also never played a cleric either.
Yeah.
I think I've done sorcerer, wizard, paladin once, but I think that was for a one shot, and then now rogue, which also I just need to get better about sneaking as a rogue. I forget that I have like the good abilities to sneak.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to being like, okay, I'll just shoot from far away, or I'll get really close. Remember I can be sneaky about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't have to. But yeah, I think Flint or Rosie.
I love that. No, and I'm not going to say much because Angie's not here, and I want them to be able to speak on it. But yeah, there's definitely been some stuff going on even behind the scenes with Rosie and her character. So I'm interested to see how that continues as well. What about you, Sophie? Who else would you play?
I think this is an interesting question because there's the characters that I would love to play again, and then there's like getting into the mind of those characters and because I think you can play a lot of these characters with different intents.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think for me, I often have to play a little bit more of like a grounded character than I have ever wanted to because
the people we play with. Because Matt Schwartzwalder's in your game.
Matt Schwartzwalder. I will say, a Matt Schwartzwalder, an Eric.
Yeah, throw an Eric and a Matt in there. It's not going to be a normal game, that's for sure.
Emily, it used to be Emily, but now Emily, I think, also plays some of the most sober characters that we've seen.
For sure. Man, if all of you could...
Zach telling my character from, like, a god, your job is to keep this group together in our last campaign. I was like, oh, this is how you play responsibly.
If all of you could have met Aora, you would see a different side of Emily for sure.
So part of me is like, oh, let me just be the silly boy.
Yeah.
So playing a Flint or a Cuinn would be I think the thing that I want. And then part of me is like, but I love staying in my lane and being a cleric. So
yeah.
He's also a top 5. When I was making my character, I was like, oh, I'll be a cleric, and Angie's like, I'm a cleric.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I'll play a paladin then.
Yeah. No, I think that Angie says spinoff. Everybody loves Cuinn. Yeah, no, I think that it's a testament that all of you really make super in-depth, interesting characters. I would be willing to play any single one of you guys. And so now I'm going to switch the script a little bit on that question. If you could take any of the NPCs that we have run into and play them in a campaign, who would that be?
Right.
Yeah, I was about to say my answer's the Shade for sure. He's too cool to not explore more in a campaign setting. He's so weird and just like mysterious. But that's your answer, Evan?
Oh, purely because he like. It would be like the concept of Batman in real life. Because the concept of Batman in the movies is like, yeah, he's a badass. He's the coolest motherfucker.
Yeah.
But when you actually like are in the setting that you're in, like when we were dealing with the first time dealing with him, you're just like, you can't.
You're
be
a tool.
Yeah, you're a shitbag. And then he still maintains that personality after being brought back to life. I think the Blight did that, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's enhanced now because he's got that Revenant shit going on.
Yeah, and it's like that meeting that human being. I'll say for the sake of the game, it's a game, but like in real life, when we've dealt with a bunch of other shit, was just fucking bonkers. This person who genuinely like is like, hey, I'm the shit, and you're like, who are you? Like that's be so fun to play because they like their life is nothing but serious.
Yeah,
there's not a single moment in their life that is like hilarious, even though them as a concept before they die is hilarious.
Yeah, for sure. Matt actually was the first person. Well, Matt and JMO were the first people to meet the Shade because the Shade was actually an NPC in the one shot with Matt and JMO in Tayaroth before the actual campaign started. And they met the Shade as just a low level detective in the Barrington Lucian Guard. Well, now he's obviously become something even more than that.
Yeah, he's gonna try and kill us, but it's fine.
I wonder if my character from that one shot will be in this world. You know, that the ranger who really likes bugs.
Oh, he's in it. He's in it for sure. He is living in this world, and you've actually missed him once, and I'm very excited for you to see him. What about you, Matt? Who would you play if you could play an NPC that we've met so far?
I mean, the Shade. I think obviously. I think I like the idea of being so serious.
Yeah.
To the point of being funny is something that I think that I do a lot.
Yeah, no, that is for sure. Well, and I think that there's something like so innate and just like that is comedy, in my opinion. Like, and you know, I've had a lot of improv training. I consider myself a comedic actor. I think the bit with comedy is that to the person who's doing the comedy, everything is completely serious. And everything is, they don't know that they're being funny. Because as soon as they know that they're being funny, then it becomes ha-cha-cha, you know?
Why is Gamora?
Yeah, exactly.
Waka!
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Sophie? An NPC that you would play as a character?
It's fun because my answer's not the Shade because I kind of get to play the taking the piss version of the Shade.
Yeah.
It was Caligo coming in like I've been looking for, and then shifting.
Caligo is like Adam West's Batman.
Yeah, an NPC that I would like to play. I'd like to play as Cuinn and Maewyn's brother, the little.
Gilbrix. Yeah.
That little shithead.
That'd be a good one. A real motherfucker.
Yeah. It would be really funny to play a character, and I think this would be Gilbrix, who's like still equal level as everybody, like still has all the abilities and is capable, but like finds himself doing these things out of like clumsiness and like you know, narrative, like mechanically it's one thing, but like narratively, like everything is like a clumsy like botch. That's funny. What about you, Emily? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sophie.
The Sandwalkers also, either of them.
Yeah. I like the Sandwalkers. The Sandwalkers were a cool sibling duo that who knows, we may see more of. Definitely going to see more of Xena, but probably haven't seen the last of Morton's seen a lot of Xena, but
Wants to.
probably yeah, we don't know yet, but Kane will definitely probably rear his head again. What about you, Emily? Any NPCs that you've...
Yeah, I've got two that come to mind that are not the Shades.
Okay.
But I think Edmund would have been really cool, like through, I don't know how you would play that as a player character, but that would have been really cool to go through that journey as a player and figure that out.
Yeah.
I also think Gil Marie has a whole untold story, has gone through all the same shit as Rosie and you, but is like at home dealing with it and by herself. And I think that she's got just as much like meat to her character as Rosie does, really, and that would be interesting.
I'm very excited to get back to Gil Marie, up in Barrington, and to meet Will Marie, her mother, and the potential savior of their grandchild. That'll be a very interesting thing to get into. I don't even know if you know that, Sophie, if you know that that's the reason why they're heading north. The reason why the party
Here's
is...
the thing. I've never watched an episode that I haven't been in.
Which I think is... that's what I would do, too. That's what I would do, too.
Thing.
Yeah. Unless your character is in the episode, obviously. But
And then I just...
message me.
Take it through until I'm like, here's the context.
Yeah.
Here's the plot.
I love that. No, I think that that's perfect. But yeah, no, actually, the reason why you are currently crossing the Drea Sands to head north to Barrington is to then try to find the wood elven city of Lavaria, where Gil Marie is from and where her mother currently is, as she is one of the people who can potentially help you. Angie says in the chat, she says, Mrs. Kettlepot.
Wow.
That was the joke answer, but it was the one I was like, just to be...
Just a horny old lady.
You know that she stood out like she stood by like her kettle, like making something while like disasters were happening outside, and then someone like ran in and was like, the world's ending, and she's like trying to fuck about it though.
Yeah, that scene in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Stan Lee is like listening to music and the Lizard and Spider-Man are just behind him going nuts. That's Mrs. Kettlepot for sure. And then she says, Gil, my BB. Yeah, Gil Marie has been a fun character, especially because of the dichotomy between Gil and Rosie, and how, I mean, Gil was very obviously to blame for a lot of the stuff that happened to Brewster and Oren, and seeing Rosie tackle that, and that's something I'll be very excited to talk with Angie about, because when we have a talkback that Angie, JMO, and Eric is here, we'll definitely talk about some of the stuff that we've talked about today. Well, kind of like a light, fun question to end this talkback on. We barely have scratched the surface, honestly. We're probably going to have another talkback about episodes 1 through 24.5, maybe, to just kind of continue to talk about some stuff. Definitely at least with the other characters. But kind of a fun little question to end on is, if you can think of it, what is a moment of this campaign that has just made you laugh out loud, and something that you still think about that can just make you chuckle? And I will say that my version of that, I feel like it's gotta be, it's a close tie. I really enjoyed the setup of the halftime show, and just that whole episode was just so funny to me, and just like, and the timpani shit with Flint was just cracking me up. I don't know what just hit my funny bone about it that day, but that was really funny to me.
Fucking funny.
And then it's kind of a tie between that and also Maewyn burying herself in sand. For some reason also just really killed me. I thought that was so funny.
So
and then, because then you
in the grass.
You and Vox, I go lay in the grass. It's desert, and then you and Vox coming back to just see like a head of Maewyn just like laughing in the sand. It's
the
just
whole
so
like
funny.
drug thing episode with Cuinn and
so
May.
funny.
Oh, so good. Did you guys have anything that sticks out to you that was really funny?
Oh, the drug trip for sure, especially because Morton's pansexuality straight up was like got him
Morton
was high.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Morton being attracted to Cuinn, his like arch nemesis, was pretty funny. That was good. That was good.
That was one of my favorites because it was so fun to play. The second that you were like, Quinn's looking kind of good, I'm like, all right, here it is. We're gonna go full tilt in this. Also, something that I don't think any of the I'm checking my notes for anything I marked down.
For sure, yeah.
Hilarious. Because I think one of these notes is about Flint being a cuck.
Oh yeah, that was
something that the viewers don't
I know. I'm so bummed about that. That was one of the funniest things that has happened in this campaign, and unfortunately we don't have the audio from it. But Cuinn and Maewyn, and I think mainly just Cuinn and Maewyn, but everybody else was a little bit involved, trying to get Flint some action, and Flint revealing that he's a cuck. It was so funny.
Not even being asked.
Yeah.
You weren't asked. You just said, I'm a cuck, and that was it.
That wasn't part of my backstory. It just kind of came out in a moment, and it's honestly very funny to me that episode, only my audio didn't work.
I know. What a bummer.
So that just makes it not canon.
That makes it that integral part of your story. All right, Morton.
It's always going to be like iffy. Is it like, is he a cuck? Is he not a cuck? That's so
that was
funny.
Very funny. But those the drug trip and that were probably my most recent that I can remember.
Yeah, exactly. You probably can't
hilarious.
remember way back when. Neither can I. But what about you, Emily? Anything sticks out to you recently that's happened?
All those things.
Yeah.
But also, every time we've convinced somebody to hire Alexander Nightshade, no audition or experience at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's ever failed. Like, we're almost always...
No, it has failed.
People.
You might not remember, but it has failed for sure. It failed in the Hangman bar specifically.
Yeah, that's fair. But
yeah.
a surprising amount of time, people are like, yeah.
Well, the biggest one, I mean, if you wouldn't have had Chad, you wouldn't have gotten that halftime show.
Yeah.
But having the connection of a former champion at Fall End definitely just made it so much easier for that halftime show to happen, which was so funny. Especially that we're talking about it today on the day of the Super Bowl. What about you, Sophie? Anything that sticks out to you that hasn't been talked about?
I think like the things that crack me up the most are the moments when, like, the first time meeting the Shade, when he like came to my like room.
That was a very funny session.
Talking and everyone else is on mute and just reacting. While... and it's so hard to not laugh and not to like look at Evan's fucking face.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to like just hold eye contact with you and interact with you, and we're both playing characters who are way too into the bit.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think also, that. Sorry, go ahead.
The last session that we had too. There were so many moments that won't ever be seen. Of us in rooms by ourselves talking, in part because I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be on camera. Let's like dig into Flint and what's going on.
Yeah, the Mask Manor definitely allowed.
Flint had a whole therapy session about that.
As Caligo, who like doesn't know what's going on.
I love to hear that you guys stayed in character even when I wasn't in your room. That's great to hear. I always know that something is funny, or that I have said something funny, if Sophie is very small on her camera because you've been pushed back all the way because you're laughing and like clapping in the background. You like push yourself away from the desk and I'm like, that's funny. I did something funny because Sophie reacted that way. Yeah, I love it. I think that all of those are obviously really funny moments to me. And then I think it's probably funnier to me, but every single time that you guys have tried a shenanigan and I have shut that shit down like very quickly into the shenanigan has always been funny for me, because like you said, like, you know, I don't know, and I'm gonna love to ask him this question, but I don't know what was going through Eric Younglove's mind when he was like, this is a bar where this gang they're the only patrons of the bar. There's no music going on. I'm gonna go up. We know that they've killed people, and I'm gonna go up to them and ask them if not I, but this guy that I know can play music for them. Oh, that's funny to me.
I will also never get the moment. I will say there's been lots of great moments of like yes anding that you have definitely and rightly so been like, stop it. But the time that we'll always maintain, and it's a carryover from campaign 1, is the who's on first of bestiality coming from Pharaoh to Drigo, and I every single time start to get like I'm a cuck was this like right underneath.
It was really close
like
to that.
We're just gonna go on it, and we're gonna keep going.
I mean, I obviously
that's the kind of shit we do.
I completely agree, and I can't obviously think of every single thing that has happened on Charmed Persons, but that might be, in my opinion, the funniest thing that has ever occurred. That was so. Oh my god! And Matt and I just immediately knew what to do with each other in that scene, and just knew how to. Oh no, she's like a main part of it. It's just.
That was so.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny, so very funny. I'm literally tearing up thinking about it. Okay, well, obviously we barely scratched the surface on stuff to talk about, and we
barely talked about Morton being dead.
I know, yeah, we barely talked about Morton being dead. So I do think that I do want to have another conversation, with everybody. And maybe, I don't know, maybe even one day we can have, we'd have to really stretch our brains, but maybe even have a Rubrian talkback. Could be fun. But anyway, thank you guys for being here and talking with me about the campaign. This was fun. It's good to reminisce. Thank you to the viewers for watching. Thank you, Angie, for chatting with us. Busy week this week. We've got tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central is the premiere of a 3-session Monster Hearts LongShot. So that's going to be fun. Me, Matt, and Sophie are in that. Angie's the master of ceremonies, and we've got a special guest joining us. So I'm very excited about that. Complete newbie, someone that hasn't been joining us before. And then this coming Wednesday, we have the premiere of Season 3 of The Remains, which I'm very excited of. That's our homebrew TTRPG set and inspired by the world of The Last of Us. We're going to find ourselves in the Atlanta QZ. Emily's going to be there. I'm the GM. Sophie is actually going to be joining us now for Season 3, which I'm very excited about. JMO's going to be there, and then Kelsey, who has been, I think, literally in one session with us and is still willing to come back. So that's good. Oh, excuse me. Thank you. So, very busy week. Excited about that. Busy February. Stay tuned at Charmed Persons on our social medias to stay up to date with what we're doing. And amazing. We'll see you soon. Thank you to my players, the best players GM could ask for. And as always, everybody say bye.
Bye.
Bye.